everyone. I'm just waiting to be connected to you all, my friends, and of course, welcome our wonderful guest who is joining me just in a few minutes. It has been a very, very busy time for me. In a few weeks ago, still ongoing, I had a very, very active schedule, I should say, with all the crypto conferences here in Singapore and Formula One Grand Prix events that were exhilarating, tough work, but it was a great success and excitement for me personally and for so many people who were here visiting and participating and enjoying the moment. So, and now I'm so glad that I actually found the time to connect to my very good friend who is joining us just in a second, and to talk about interesting projects that he's involved in. And I'm just waiting for him to join. I'm sure he's somewhere in the aura of, I think he's here, so I'm going to invite him just now. As he is able to get a connection. Here you go. Hi.
Hi, Olga.
How are you?
Very well.
Great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Thank you very much, Michael, for joining me. I was just telling all the viewers and our friends that after extremely busy time in Singapore in September with the crypto conferences, with the Grand Prix events that I was involved and staged, we've managed, both of us managed to find the time to connect and have this meaningful and exciting conversation. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Michael, I will say a few words about Conversations with Olga. I will also briefly introduce you
Okay.
and not to take any limelight of your own introduction about yourself, but
Thank you.
I think it will be great just for me to say a few words about you. And then we
Sure.
start our conversation, okay?
Okay.
So thank you so much again for joining me. Today is episode number 51. It's hard to believe, but it is. Conversations with Olga is an IG Live and YouTube series that I've started several years ago. Now I just keep on changing. It was like 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Now I just moved into the several years ago during the circuit breaker, during the COVID, with the goal of introducing my friends I've met over my career in my life and having an hour-long, meaningful, in-depth conversation with
Sure.
with them about their personal journeys and fulfillment of their dreams and so much more in industry insights and other different things. My main mission and hope for the series is to inspire and cultivate a more diverse and immersive community that can learn from one another. And it is an honor for me to have you, Michael. You're my dear friend, Michael Lim, Festival Director of Singapore Film Society's Animation Nation, founder of the Singapore Visual Effects and Animation Group, and a filmmaker himself.
Mhm.
I met you, Michael, years ago, several years ago, when we both were actually on the board of directors for the Singapore International Film Festival. And I'm so glad that since then we remain good friends, and friendship is very solid, and it's really a privilege to get to know you so well. Your journey, your film journey, has brought you unique experiences, including becoming a qualified film archivist with the George Eastman Museum, serving as a judge and jury on the various international film festivals, and contributing to projects like Moulin Rouge and Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Our conversation will follow your journey, Michael, and focus on your vision for the animation industry in Singapore and beyond. So welcome once again.
Thank you.
Uh, well, we all grow. I was growing up with animation films, and as most of the children, I believe, many of the animation films have left such a lasting impression on me. and even shaped some of my life values and life perspectives and philosophies.
Hmm.
The animated films tackles many complex emotions like love, loss, friendship, and courage. And many
Right.
of these films are often filled with definitely moral lessons. You, Michael, have some incredible milestones of both education and work in your life. So I would like to ask you if you can share briefly with us a little bit about your journey and what drew you to the film industry and animation specifically.
Okay, well, I have to say that well, I'll try to be as brief as possible, but it is it's kind of epic journey because when I started watching animation films, I had no idea how they were made. They it completely took me by, in terms of like it took a hold on me, I would say, and it really captured my heart, my soul, and I just love the way things were drawn, and I think that's something that I feel really strongly about in terms of that it's a handcrafted uh, medium in terms of how it's created. So when I started watching films, it was I think about 4 or 5. My parents were both avid film buffs. My mom took me to Bambi when I was, I think, about 4 years old, and I even dedicated the last edition of the film festival to my mom and my late grandmother for being such a strong influence in my life in terms of like where my career choice ended up going. So and then when I was about 10 or 11, my mom bought me the Disney Encyclopedia, World Encyclopedia, and at the back of the encyclopedia page was a very interesting uh, article about how they made animation films. And at that point in time, I had no idea how animation films were made. So it was a step-by-step process for a kid to understand what was the simplified process of making animation films. So it started from that, and then I started making my own films because my stepfather had a video camera, and I started making my own independent films when I was about 14, 15 years old. Taught myself that at that time there was no internet, so you had to learn by books, by trial and error, and it was just an epic journey. And then I really wanted to study film. In fact, when I was about 16 or 17, I visited my uncle in LA, and I went to the campus of UCLA and USC, which is one of the top film schools in the world. And I was just saying, this is where I want to be, and in the end, I ended up doing a business degree because it was the
It's
practical thing
good
to
to
do
hear.
at that time.
It's a practical thing to do for sure. Good for you.
Yeah, so I did a business degree, which is actually really useful in terms of like management and marketing of films and how they're
Yes.
actually done. And then I did a film when I was in the army that got into the finalist film for the Singapore International Film Festival in 1996.
Yes.
And that got me into the film school in London. I went to Goldsmiths College in London at the University of London. And since then, it's been a process of education, also experience, meeting amazing people along the way. I've met Ridley Scott, I've met Jerry Bruckheimer, all these luminaries in the industry. I got a chance to hear from them and attend talks, even Scorsese as well, and Coppola. So all these are master craftsmen in terms of like the way
Of course.
I admire their filmmaking. So yeah, in a sense, that's how I got started. But it's still a work in progress. I call it a WIP because it's still a journey.
Well, that's great. That's what the journey, life journey is all about. You just live
Mm,
and learn. That's fantastic. As you know, my son Mark is a filmmaker too, and I've always been supportive of
yeah,
both of my children's pursuits and encourage them to find their own paths in life. And animation, talking about you, is an
yeah,
even more niche genre of film
yeah.
than probably any other one. So it's amazing. Your parents obviously supported you, and how did they embrace you going into the animation field?
Well, I guess my parents they didn't come from, I mean, at that time there was no industry in Singapore, and it's still an infant industry here. So I guess for them, they didn't really know what I was embarking on, but they were 100, my mom especially has been 150%, 200% supportive of everything I do. and she doesn't necessarily understand it, but she appreciates art and crafts, and
Yeah.
she even enjoys knitting right now. So she's
Good.
creative in her own way, and and I've been really blessed in that sense that I've also met amazing people along this journey in filmmaking that really inspired me. I've been to conferences and film festivals around the
Yeah.
world. I've been to Colombia. I've been to Cartagena. I've been to Iran, the Iranian Film Festival also. So I've also been to the New York Film Festival. I've been to the London Film Festival. I just recently came back from the Melbourne
Yes.
International Film
Ex-
Festival where I was hosting some filmmakers there, animation filmmakers, Adam Elliott and Giz Belis, who just directed a marvelous film from Latvia called The Flow. So
Okay.
yeah, so I mean, it's
Fantastic.
really yeah, it's really amazing. I don't even know how I got here. It's like it wasn't
Well,
planned.
you worked, really, as you said, it's a journey, and you worked in so many different departments or institutions and support who was supporting your, I guess, dream and journey. So as you did to support the institutions, you worked as an assistant director for the Animation and Digital Arts MFA program at NYU's Tisch School of
Yes,
the
that's
Arts of
right.
Asia, and
Yeah.
what do you see as the most important skill set for animators today?
I think, it hasn't really changed in terms of like the dynamics of the technology has changed to a certain extent in terms of like, yeah, we're definitely using more computers now. There's also AI, which we'll get to at a
Which
later
we
point
will
in terms
get
of
to
our
it. We'll talk
conversation
about
as
AI
well,
a bit.
because I'm sure
Yes,
it's a hot topic right
yes,
now.
it's a hot
So
topic. We will touch on it as well a little bit
we will talk
later
about
in
it a
our
little bit
conversation.
later.
Yes,
So
yes,
stay tuned for that.
yes.
But I think at the end of the day, fundamentally, it is about experience, a life experience. I think, storytelling, whether it's in a form of animation or live action, it's about your personal experiences and what you see in the world, what you observe in the world, your perspective on things, and also what your values are and what you believe in. And I think that's really plays a very key role in terms of your storytelling, in terms of what you want to achieve. You have to have something to say at the end of the day,
Yes,
whether or not it's for yourself or for your friends or for your family or for an audience. It's really important to understand that filmmaking is storytelling, and fundamentally, we've been telling stories since the day we were born. You know.
very true. Thank you. And you mentioned experience, and with your extensive experience in the international film and TV industry as well, since 1999, I believe, how has the
Yeah.
landscape of animation and visual effects, VFX for the short, changed over the past 2 decades?
Okay. Well, one thing is definitely the technology. That more tools now available, and a lot of the tools, in terms of technology, are more accessible. Like now, even with an iPad, you have software tools that are
Yes,
very
and
affordable.
throw and
And
yes,
in the old days, I think it used to cost $50,000 US for an SGI machine in order to create the digital animation that you need. And nowadays, it's available on your
yes,
phone or your iPads or tablets. So, in terms of access, the technology is always it's definitely gotten better, and it's getting more accessible. At the heart of it is still, I would still believe is whether you have something to say with the tools, and it's
I
easier to
agree.
practice now. Yeah.
I totally agree. I think the factor of expressing your own soul and
Mm.
heart is just as important as before. It's probably through perhaps the different, as you said,
I
technology.
think it's, in fact,
Uh,
even in today's world, it's even become more important.
yes,
That we need stories to connect us.
yes,
We
I,
need it needs to be a bridge to connect human beings
yes.
together, and it's not to tear us apart or divide us. It's actually to build bridges to make us understand each other better.
Absolutely. And that goes again into the AI territory, and that we will talk a little bit about later as well. Can
Okay.
you tell us a little bit about the project that you worked on, Moulin Rouge and Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince?
Okay.
What was your role, and what were the most challenging aspects of doing this project or working on this project?
Okay, for Moulin Rouge, I came in on the back end of the production as a stills archivist. So I got to archive about 25,000 still photography. That time it was pre-digital age, so it was shot on film, on slide film. and my role was to actually do all the approval and kills, which we call in the industry, for the photos by the agents of the three leading actors in that film: Ewan McGregor, Nicole Kidman, and also John Leguizamo. So it was our job to, it was my job primarily to record down what the approved photos were to be used in terms of publicity
Mhm.
stills, and to archive that photos, also to send them back to LA as well, because the whole film was shot in Sydney. So actually, there's a very interesting story about how I got started on Moulin Rouge, because I actually had an interview with Star Wars Episode
Yeah.
2, and
Okay.
at that time I didn't get that position in episode 2, but somebody in the, I was working retail at the Fox shop at that time, and somebody said, hey, they're looking for somebody to help them out on Moulin Rouge, to help with the photography. And it's like, and I said, what do you mean help them out? It's like, oh, they're looking for somebody to archive. And I instantly I said, like, well, I'm an archivist. So I called the office up and I just spoke to the PA, to the producer at Wiener Wencard, and then I had a lovely chat with her, and then I came down, and next thing I know, I was helping them out on the production.
See, being at the right time at the right place, and
Yep,
projecting your
yep,
thoughts. Wonderful. See, yeah, it's a very cool story. I didn't know this story.
yeah.
Uh,
I have a lot of stories, Olga.
oh, but I want to, we will, we probably will need to arrange for another episode with you, for sure. Uh,
Okay,
while we are still in the industry subjects,
sure.
how do large-scale Hollywood productions differ from the smaller independent projects in terms of animation and in terms of VFX?
I guess in terms of like the scale of a production from a big studio film, looking at a big studio film and a small scale production, there are independent animators like Adam Elliott, who works with a smaller team, with lower budgets than say a Pixar movie,
Yeah,
and they tell incredible stories using handcrafted stop motion animation also. So there are various um I guess in a way, tools that you can use to create animation, whether it's drawing, whether it's building a model, like a stop motion animatronic model, or some amateur, sorry, to actually design and build sets, live sets, for you to photograph as well.
yeah,
So, and there's also mixed media where you actually film live people and then you rotoscope and trace over them also.
yes,
So there are different forms of animation that you can use to tell your story. So if you look at a lot of the short film animations, especially the best Oscar short film competition nominees, or even the short list or the long list, you see a variety of different styles of animation, from something more graphical, with crayons or pastels or something like that, or even watercolor.
yes,
And you even get more digital paint, where it's a 3D object, where like it looks like a 3D character that's created on a computer, but at the same time, you're telling a story. And getting back to your question, it's about, I guess, the difference is that the scale of production, you involve much more people, the complexity of what you're able to achieve. Sometimes it's even more incredible with a team that's doing research and development. So say for even like animation or visual effects, you have like teams that work on water, solely on water, and their job is to simulate nature
well,
and water to make it as photorealistic as possible. Say like even like a film like Prince of Egypt by DreamWorks, that looks that is primarily looking like a 2D film, but
yes.
there are 3D elements integrated into that are 2D looking, but they're actually 3D elements, like the water when the parting of the Red Sea happens. That's all digital. Mm.
Yeah, it's incredible. And obviously, all these projects, big and small, require financing. And financing of film is not easy. I've seen this firsthand from my son Mark. It must be incredibly difficult, also to balance creativity and financial sustainability.
Mhm.
As you know, and I've shared with you, Mark recently launched a crowd investing platform for Film with Republic, and I'm so proud of him and Sam Pressman, who was actually my guest
Mhm.
in the last episode. It's truly a game changer
Yep.
where cinephiles can be more involved in the production process overall. What means do you take to finance your films, whether it's animated or live action movie?
Okay, for myself personally, I work in the industry, so I do jobs that pay money in terms of like servicing clients. and organizations. So that's how I earn my living. And at the same time, also use that financing to that income to actually offset my own personal projects or whether my own film projects that I do. But one of the things that's amazing now is that, basically for crafting a film, you can use an iPhone, you can use technology that's much more affordable than it was previously. I mean, the barrier to entry in the old days was the equipment.
Yes.
And nowadays, that's not the case anymore. It's like it's just your own imagination and how much work you want to put into it, because the audience doesn't really see. I mean, they might care for it in the beginning of the film to say like, "Wow, this looks amazing technically and cinematography." But a good film you should lose yourself in the film, in the story and the characters and the actors and the story and the script and the direction and the cinematography and the music all blend together to put you into that universe. I mean, one classic case example is when I met Jerry Bruckheimer at a masterclass, and he told everybody there that it's like when people ask him what business is he in, and he said that, well, I'm in the transportation business. What does that mean? And he said that, well, it's my job to transport the audience to somewhere else in the world, in the galaxy, or in the universe.
It's very true, and that goes. It touches again the same subject, that it's all about passion, emotions, belief in what you do, and just doing it all. That is so to bring it out into the world. And but I understand that animated films can sometimes cost even more. They could be even more expensive than live action
Yeah.
films. So
Yeah,
kudos
I
to
mean,
you, and it's not
definitely
easy.
animation films can cost, like an average Pixar film might cost, it takes about 4 years to make a Pixar film, from what I understand. And it can cost upwards for anything from 150 to $200 million to do one of those films, which is
It's
incredible amount of money.
incredible. Yes.
Yeah, and the resources that you have to put into it, and not just to make the film. The other thing that is really important to understand in terms of just the industry is you make the film, but then you have to market the film.
Exactly.
So marketing the film is another component where you have to spend a lot of money to bring the audience to your cinemas as well.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for sharing. And that actually brings me to the topic about the groups that you involved, the animation visual effects groups.
Hmm.
What inspired you to found the Singapore Visual Effects and Animation Group, and how do you maintain engagement with a large group of over, I believe, 4,000 members? And what are the key moments you are proud of? So obviously,
Wow.
hopefully you are able to engage all this group for marketing of the projects. And but how do you do it with so many members, and how do you keep relevant?
I think it's thanks to social media that I was able to start a group, because originally, when I wanted to, I realized that there's a gap in terms of where knowledge is shared and where is it reach, where how far I can reach out to. And I realized this, that there was to build an online community, something that I felt that this was the right place and the right time to do it, because there are not that many organizations in Singapore that specialize in animation or
Yeah.
visual effects. And at that time, we had companies like Double Negative and also Industrial Light and Magic based in Singapore. So there were these big, huge companies, MNCs companies that were set up here, and they also worked on world-class visual effects and animation for a lot of the Hollywood films, studio films. And I realized that there was a bit of a gap between the local artists who are working the smaller post-production houses and also the bigger players as well. So what I wanted to do was really develop a community where I could bridge those two. So there's an ability to communicate and share knowledge, and also events, experiences,
Yeah.
and it is a challenge to keep a group motivated in terms of like sharing. But at the same time, I think it's important just to have a community out there. In fact,
Community, yes.
yeah, and in fact, recently I was so touched because I met a young a lady working in a post production house, and she was going to this a little bit of a crisis in terms of what she wanted to do in life, and she was so happy to discover this little group that I started, and she was so inspired by it that she kept going at doing what she's doing right now, and she's still in the industry to today because she realized that she wasn't alone. I think the most important thing at the end of the day is being creative. Sometimes you work in isolation.
Yes.
Whether you're a writer or a director, when you're preparing the script, you work by yourself. You feel very much alone in that sense, and it can be a lonely job. But when you go out there in the world, you start flipping. You become this extroverted character because you have to start talking about your movies. You start doing interviews. You start talking to the press. You start talking to media, and you have to start promoting your film also. So there is this duality in terms of how I think people in the industry work. Uh, and I think having a community of like-minded souls doing in a social group, like whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn, which is more professional,
Yes.
it's really important to build bridges, especially for a young
Absolutely.
person coming into the industry, not knowing anything about it, but being inspired by the work of these
Yes.
amazing artists and talents out there,
Absolutely.
directors, writers, producers, editors, cinematographers, musicians. The one of the things about animation that you can't forget is that 50% of the experience, or even some people say more of the experience, is sound. Because every sound you hear in an
Sound
animation film
effects. Yes.
has to be created from scratch.
Yeah,
All
that's
the sound
that's
effect. Yeah.
yes,
Which is incredible work.
it's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing, and that emphasizes how, in general, human connections and communities are so important in our life. And like-minded people, we gravitate to like-minded people. And when you're in a certain industry and you seek these relationships that are these, these these people whom you can discuss the same, what bothers you and what actually moves you forward. So thank you so much for sharing. And
Yeah.
continuing on actually the content,
Mhm.
everybody these days is a content creator,
Yeah.
and the film sometimes, anybody can do the film these days, as you mentioned yourself, with the
Right.
technology and with the phone itself. So social media is something that I always talk as well about to my guests, and
Mm.
because it has such a massive impact on all of us, and we can be both inspired by it or harmed by it, depending on how we use it. What
Yes.
is your take on content creation nowadays, meaning social media in particularly?
Okay. Um, I think it's more, not necessarily about the, because I feel at the end of the day it's just a vehicle for communication. Content creation is a vehicle for communication. I think what's the most important thing is the responsibility of
Yeah.
what you actually are communicating using social media,
Yes.
and what are you propagating in terms of messaging, and what are you saying to the world from your perspective. Is it something that is positive? Is it something that's going to be negative? Is it something to make you think a little bit more about how you can make things better? Is it something about influencing people to think in a certain way? Obviously, we've had advertising for a very, very long time, and now that's even that landscape of advertising has changed to influencers and people who are able to have large number of followers. I think there
Mhm. Your connection is a
is,
hang on, Michael. I think the
as I
connection
have
is
friends in the industry who are professional actors, they have to learn how to brand themselves now using social media, because nowadays it's about the number of followers you have, the influence you have, uh, and I don't know whether it's necessarily the right approach or the wrong approach, but I do know that it's here to stay, and whether or not you use it or you don't use it, it's going to be there. It's just like AI as well.
yeah, very
So I think
true.
it can be a force for positivity. It can also be a force for negativity, depending on how you
Exactly,
use it. Yeah,
exactly, and we see it all around these days.
yeah,
So it's actually yes, it's probably the personal and subjective experience, and what you,
mm,
as you said, what you're trying to convey, and
mm.
what you're trying to express, and it's
Yeah. And
important. I
hopefully
think.
it is about connections again. It goes back to connections. It's like the more people you can connect with, the more people who agree with what you have to say, or at least you form your own little tribes. It's like whether it's something niche, whether it might be collecting memorabilia or something obscure, like seashells, I don't know, on the beach. You can form your own little community group on that. And find people who also have the same interest, and you realize that it's going back to the whole idea that you're not alone in the world anymore. You can find people out there who have similar interests, and they could be
Yes.
as far as away as the North Pole or the South Pole, and they
Yeah, it's true. Yes, we're all connected in one way or another. Absolutely. Thank you. I would love to move into the project that is very, very close to your heart. Uh, Festival that you're working so hard on. It's
yes,
Animation Nation. For our
Animation Nation.
viewers, yes, Michael, your connection is all of a sudden not very good. You're pixelated and um, can you please check your Wi-Fi, or can you see and hear me well? Because
Okay, let
you,
me.
you, you've disconnected just for a little bit and you're a bit pixelated now. I think it's maybe
Okay,
better now.
is it better now? Okay, let me just try something.
It should
Just
be
give me a
okay.
moment. It's okay now?
Okay,
Yeah, it's okay now.
it's okay now. So
Okay,
for
great.
our viewers who are not familiar with film festivals, so some of you are not familiar with film festivals in Singapore, can you please share what the actual Animation Nation is?
Okay, Animation Nation is actually organized by the Singapore Film Society, and Singapore Film Society started out as a university film club back in 1958, even before Singapore became a republic, which is a really long
Uh,
time. And our chairman has been there, Mr. Kenneth Tan has been there for the longest time also as our chairman, and he is an avid film
yes,
lover, film fan. And he's worked in the industry for many, many years as well.
correct.
And and I'm really lucky to have him as a chairman, and the team that we have at Singapore Film Society. And Animation Nation was actually started in 2004 by our vice chairman at that time, Dave Chua. And I took over in 2016, 2015. 2016 was my first edition.
2016. Yeah.
Yeah. And we brought in, for the very first time, a festival guest from overseas, which was Adam Elliott. Uh, He's an Oscar winner for a movie called Harvey Crumpet, with a voiceover by Jeffrey Rush,
No.
and yeah,
Oh,
and
amazing.
he's a he's an independent filmmaker. And the year he won, I think he was in competition with I think Pixar and another short film from DreamWorks or something like that. And he actually won as an independent filmmaker, which was amazing at that time. And we brought him into Singapore, and he did an amazing masterclass at LaSalle College of the Arts, which has an animation program. And yeah, it was actually incredible. And then 2022, we brought in Domi Shi,
Yes,
who's the vice president of creative at Pixar Animation Studios and director of the Oscar-winning film Pow. And she also directed
yes,
another film, which is right behind me, Turning
yes,
Red.
yes, yes. And I actually
And-
loved, I've attended, as you remember,
yeah.
the film screening and the talk and conversations with Domishi. It was really inspiring. It was wonderful, really.
Yeah, so this year we've actually had the theme of Discover, because we realized we want to go back to where all the films come from in terms of like from schools. So we've actually curated a group of films from some of the leading animation schools in the world, from Gobelin, Paris, from SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, and also a very quite a recent new school for stop motion is Artman Academy also, which
Mm-hmm.
was started in when they first made Chicken Run. So they realized that they needed more animators, so they actually started an academy that trains people in stop motion animation also.
Great.
So I guess having attended a lot of animation festivals, or a few, especially Annecy, which is the largest and biggest
Just quite
animation.
recently, I remember you were
Yeah,
there. Yes,
I was there in June, but it was more like
yes.
a 10-year interval between the first time I was there and the second time I was there. And NSC, for those of you who don't know, is the biggest and largest animation festival in the world. It's like the Cannes Film Festival of the animation world. And it's something that if you go there, if you love animation, you're completely with your tribe, because it's 17,400 people there this year, and they come from all over the world. We have people from Chile, we have people from not just South America, but from everywhere in the world, Korea, and you have this markets component also where you get to see country specific booths, including Ireland as well, which is another strong country for animation. Of course, France itself is also very well known for its animation films,
Yes, of course.
and it's just a wonderful celebration of animation. And it's I wish, when I see the world, the way the animation works is that I feel that there is hope in the world when I go to an animation festival, because you see people from all over the world so passionate about stories and what animation brings to the table in terms of their lives and enriching lives.
Yes.
And it's actually quite wonderful, actually, going to a festival. And
Absolutely. It's
it,
very,
it
there are so many philosophies behind it. And just, in a tweak of a second, you can be transformed into something else or transported somewhere else. And it just gives you this feel of, I don't know, kindness and
I'm only way, there's only one word to
illusions,
describe it. I call it magic.
magic. That's a proper word for it, exactly, magic. And when you started, I mean, when you've done your first year in 2016,
Hmm.
you had obviously initial goals, and you become a festival director
Hmm.
at that time. How have they evolved, your goals, from beginning up to now and moving forward? What are your
Okay,
goals
my
then, and
goal
what are your
my
goals now?
goal in for Animation Nation is to become the largest animation festival in the region, at least in Asia, Southeast Asia for a start, and then maybe Asia Pacific. But it's a hugely ambitious goal, and I can't do it myself. And I realized that early on, you really need a strong team, and
Yes,
not just the vision, but you need the building blocks. It's like a Lego set. You need to get all your separate bricks
yes,
together and have a strategy in terms of like how you want to develop that in the long term. And just having a goal sometimes gives you an endpoint, but doesn't give you the necessary tools to get to where you want to go at the end of the day. But I think what's most important at the end of the day is that uh, we're still doing it. I think the most important thing in any creative journey is that you have to keep doing it. And
yes,
I was so lucky to meet the late John Landau, the producer of Avatar, Titanic, and he wrote me on a photo of Avatar. He wrote on my DVD box set. He wrote there, "Never give up, Michael. Never give up, John Landau." And that's something. Whenever I'm feeling a little bit jaded or a little bit down, I look at it and just say, he's absolutely right. The people who actually who are the naysayers are usually the people who have never even done anything quite amazing or quite remarkable, and they're just saying no because they just want you to be stable. They want you to go with the flow. But the people who have the ambition and also who work hard, because you still have to
yes,
work hard at it, are the ones who usually get to achieve something. And I think energy is infectious.
yes,
The more energy you have in this world, and especially positive energy, the more
yes.
you draw people who are like-minded
Absolutely,
to yourself as
absolutely.
well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree. I live on energy. I so believe in it, and I'm affected by the energy, positive and negative as well,
Mm.
unfortunately. But yes, but then we gravitate, as you say, to the like-minded people, to people whom we can relate to emotionally,
Yeah.
whom we can trust, and this is how the
Yep.
relationships are built, and
Yep.
how this is how we progress.
Yep.
So, still on the same subject, what are the common sentiments right now, recently, among the filmmakers you work with, and what do you hope to push the local industry right now forward?
Okay, one of the things that when I started earlier this year was a competition called the Lightbox Southeast Asian Animation Awards, because I
Yeah.
felt there was a lack of recognition in terms of our own creatives in this region uh, internationally. So, and I've seen a lot of films from around the world, and some of our talents here are just as good as anywhere else in the world. It's just that they don't have the exposure, they don't have the opportunity, and they don't have the resource.
Sorry, guys. I think there's a little bit of
A certain amount of
Michael. I'm so
visibility, which is
sorry.
where your branding
I
comes
just
in.
lost your
Oh,
connections,
sorry.
Michael. I think the connection is a little bit weak again. So
Okay,
if
we'll
you
just wait
can,
for it to restart, maybe.
yeah. So
Uh,
maybe yes.
is that better now? Yeah, I
It's
think.
fine. Please
Okay.
continue. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, as I was just saying, where was I? So I lost my train of thought there. I was talking about connections. Yes. So building visibility. Yes. So one of the things I created was this animation competition.
Mm. My apology. That's technology these days. Sometimes
Yes, because it's a bit of a long
it
haul
has a bit of
process
a
to get
glitch.
into an Oscar qualifying status uh, for uh, for the competition. So
Michael,
just
sorry, let me interrupt you. The connection is not good, so we cannot hear.
okay. Uh, is that better now? It's popping in and
It
out,
is
I think.
okay now, but I have the echo of.
Do you want me to log off and log in or something like that? Or
Uh, okay,
how's it
let's try
now?
to do that. Let's try to do it very quickly.
Okay.
Let me invite you again. Just
Okay.
try
Sure.
to.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about it. Just give
That's
us
okay.
1 second, but that's the part of the filmmaking, right? And creating the
Yeah.
content.
Like sure.
Well, it's okay now, actually, Michael. So maybe
Okay.
don't
Yeah. Maybe we
disconnect from
can
it.
just continue.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we created this competition, which is in its first year. We've got an amazing panel of international jury members. We got Shujo John Shota from the president of Polygon Pictures, which is one of the largest 3D animation houses in Japan, in Tokyo. We've got Usman Riaz, who's a Pakistani animation director who just directed his first animated feature film, which is representing Pakistan at the Oscars for the very first time as an animation film. It's called The Glass Worker. His name is Usman Riaz. So you should definitely look out for his film. It's called The Glass Worker. And
Yeah,
also we've had Josini, as well as Dane Cohen, also who is the CEO of Kraken Collective. So we're really proud of the people that we've had come on board to support our initiatives also.
wonderful. Yes,
And we've had
fantastic.
a lot of support from the embassies as well. I mean, the last
I
edition of our festival
remember.
was actually supported by the U.S. Embassy and
Yes.
various other embassies as well. So, we're really grateful for all that support from the international community, yeah.
Yes. Oh,
And we hope
yeah,
it continues to grow
that's
as well.
wonderful. We also, please, for our listeners, please listen and please support. It's incredible journey, and I think it's so important to be part of it in any way you can. So please spread the information as well. And of course, I will share the link with every one of you later on after the conversation.
Yeah.
Michael, you've hosted some incredible big names in animation, and you did mention hosting Adam Elliott and Domi Shi at Animation
Mhm.
Nation. Um, can you share a memorable moment and what really stays in your heart and mind from hosting these people as personas, as individuals?
As individuals, I would say, the first time I met Adam Elliott was the first time I met somebody who was so remarkable in terms of his patience, his personality. He was just like such a wonderful individual. Even if he wasn't an animator, I would still want him as my friend. So in terms of a memorable moment, I guess every moment I spend with Adam is always very interesting and it's very fun to be with. And now he's on a world tour of his new movie Memoir of a Snail, which is hopefully going to get nominated for an Oscar next year as well. So we'll see what happens over there. And for Domi, I think Domi is such a
Yes,
powerhouse of
I
incredible
can see it.
yeah, she's such a hard worker. I mean, the amount of energy that she puts into her work and crafts and being able to share with others. I remember one when we had the master class, a girl literally cried when she saw Domi in person because to the younger generation of animators, maybe not so much my generation, but to the younger generation of people learning animation, Domi is a god to them. So
Yes,
I was really happy to bring her to Singapore because I realized that the value of somebody who speaks to the young people is so important to have that rapport with them, and
Yes.
to really say like this is possible for your life, this is possible for something that you can make this happen.
Yes.
And it's going to be struggle, it's going to be an up and down, it's going to be a bit of a roller coaster, but it's, it's something that even I struggle at some point in time to decide, if this is something that I really want to do. And sometimes I look back and I just say, how did I achieve so much in 1 year? Like,
Oh,
we've had events since the beginning of this year. We've had Craig Cotwell, we had Peter Ramsey, the director of Spider-Verse, talk to us. We've had Finding Your Audience at the Mandela Club with uh, Lynette Pong, the Deputy CEO of National Arts Council. We had uh,
yes,
also amazing people on that panel, and also amazing people who have just come on board to support us. So, even like
absolutely.
yourself, Olga.
It's it's an honor, and I'm so proud of you. And talking about being proud and talking about achievements,
Mhm.
I need to brag a little bit about you. In 2024, you were awarded as one of the top 25 exceptional leaders in animation by Digital Convex in Amsterdam, and nominated for the Fortuna Global Excellence Awards in Dubai. So, what does it mean to you personally and professionally to have these incredible achievements and get
Well,
these awards? Don't be
I
humble. I
guess.
know you're a very humble person, but please,
Well, it really means a lot to me because sometimes, you don't know where you are, because like going back, harking back to the idea that it is a bit of a lonely journey sometimes, and you don't even know where you're going because, you don't really have a map to guide you to say like, oh, you do this and this and this, and then this will equal that. It's not like an equation where it's numbers and maths. It's not as logical as that
but
process.
usually the creative process is never is. It comes from,
No,
I don't
no.
know, outer universe and out, out of space and in from your heart and everything
Yeah,
else. So yes,
it,
don't look
it,
for
it,
the
it, it is
ABCs
such a,
there.
yeah, it is such a mix of different factors, whether it's your environment, your relationships, and getting any kind of recognition or accolade, as you call it, or anything like that. It's a nice pat on the back, and on the
Yes,
back, because every now and then you need to pat yourself on the back to say like, hey, hang on, you're doing okay. You're getting there. Maybe it's not even about getting there. It's about just doing it.
yes,
And that process of just doing it really kind of inspires you to push forward every day, because one of the things I've learned is that every day is a new day, it's a new opportunity to do something good or to do something bad, or not even to do anything.
very
So
true.
the way I look at it now, I mean, I'm in my mid point in my life right now, is that looking back on all the things that I've dreamt of, a lot of the things I wanted to do and achieve, I couldn't even imagine that I would be there at certain points in time. I've
Mm.
had like such wonderful experiences, and these are things that no amount of logic will actually determined that that would happen in my life, but it has happened in a way, whether it's working on a Harry Potter film, going to Dumbledore's office and seeing all the vials and sitting in his chair. It's like on set there, on a Harry Potter movie. It is magic. It's pure magic. I
Magic,
mean,
absolutely,
yeah.
and it's wonderful. Thank you. It's really magic, and you're inspiring all of us to be part of this magic or create magic, and definitely support magic. So thank you for telling us the stories. Yeah, I don't know whether you
Yeah, we're
can
back
you.
again.
No,
I think yeah.
you're
I'm still,
still there.
yeah,
So
like I'm still here, yeah.
I'm glad.
Okay.
You obviously have a lot of international collaborations, and
Mhm.
you're doing incredibly with connecting people from all over the world. Do you think the world is ready for the more cross-cultural collaboration and animation in general?
Cross-cultural, I mean, in terms of the story or in terms of teams? Because actually, if you go to a lot of the big studios in the world, there are already cross-cultural teams already making these films. a lot of the teams around the world are actually from all over the world. You meet people from Argentina, you meet people from
Yes.
Europe, from Asia, different parts of Asia. So there is already a very international group of people working on big productions from all over the world, because they need certain particular specialized skills, and a lot of these skills are from different parts of the world, from the different experiences that people have. In terms of storytelling, I think it has to be the right fit. It cannot be forced. If you're trying to make inclusivity and diversity a statement on that without having a story behind it, it is going to fall flat with the audience, because they know what's real and what's not, and what is forced and upon them, and what is natural. I think there is a certain value in terms of authentic
Yeah.
stories. If it is an authentic story and it really markets itself as something that is real, then the honesty will come true. And that is something that isn't, and people know when it's fake,
Yeah.
and when it's not. And I
Just
think
like
that's
fake
really
is
important.
possible.
Yeah, and I think, for a cross-cultural film to work, it has to have resonance there, that, whether it's the song or the music or the characters in there or the relationships between the characters, it all has to be real in terms of our authentic self
Yes.
to make it happen.
And it
Yeah.
becomes global in this way. So it
Yeah.
basically doesn't matter
Yeah.
that this is your culture, cross-cultural connection for sure.
In fact, one
Thank
of
you
the
for sharing this.
Yeah. In fact, one of the
And
interesting things about it is that, the more closer you are to the universal truth in humanity, the more universal it becomes. So the more true you are to yourself, the more you find you relate to people.
absolutely, absolutely. I agree with it, 100%. And now as we started a little bit on AI, I want
Yeah.
to talk a little bit about the future of animation, even though I do come across and obviously very interesting projects with AI's
Mm,
involvement. I have some difficulties, I must say, fully relate to the AI sometimes, especially since in my industry of
mm,
lifestyle events planning
mm.
and creating the experiences, I believe in the need for the human connection and personal touch. And this is what I always project through my own
Right.
activations, through my events and projects. But I
Sure.
know that a lot of other creative industries are affected by AI development, of course.
Yeah.
With AI and all these new digital tools entering in the field, how do you see the role of animators evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
Okay, there are different scales of animation in terms of, like, when we talked about indie and also studio-based animation. I think a lot of the studios are run by executives, and they're always beholden to their shareholders, so they're always looking for ways to objectively make more profits, which is what a
Yes,
company
yeah.
has to do in order to survive from year to year. So they're looking at it from the AI as a point of view, as a cost saving initiative
Mm.
or technology that could help them. I don't really see AI as, I think it's a tool for productivity. It could be used to be if it's something that it makes the job more productive, then it has a purpose. If it's a tool that doesn't make the job more productive in terms of how you actually tell a story or create a film, then it doesn't serve any
I
purpose at all.
love it.
So
I saw with you. I continue.
yeah, so it has to have it has to have an angle where it serves a purpose. It is not a solution, because we make wonderful films as human beings, and that's never going to
Yeah.
change.
Yes.
AI is going to make some form of films, but you look at a movie which is like Inside Out 2, all that is heart in terms of the characters. AI has no heart. It is a technology. It can, at its best, it can emulate something that is close to it, but it'll never be it.
I love it. I absolutely agree with it. This is exactly how I feel. That's why,
Yeah.
it's the human feelings, the human expressions, the human connections are still going to prevail, on my opinion. And as you said, the tool of AI, as much as it is important to express all the feelings and the essence of being, I think it's not going to happen. So I thank you for sharing,
Yeah.
really.
But I mean,
And
AI at the end of the day is another technology that will stay in the course
yes,
and it
of
will be
course,
with us. And
of
if it
course,
serves a purpose to help us in health, I mean, obviously AI is affecting not just in the creative industry, but in many in different industries in terms of health, medical science,
yes, of course.
and all that in terms of helping us as human beings. Also, so I think there is a purpose for AI,
It's part of our
and
life
it
in
is
any
part of our
case.
life.
So obviously
You know.
nobody's counting it. It's just the way we connect to it or we use it for this for
Mm.
this matter. So
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you. And what do you say before we end? We have one or two questions. We have
sure.
one or two points to cover.
Okay, sure.
What are your thoughts on the increasing crossover between animation, gaming, and virtual reality experiences in general?
I think at the end of the day, when you look at a crossover, it has to be something that has a universe to it. It has to have a universal appeal. Like, say, a small intimate animation film is not gonna be able to translate to a game or to a franchise like a VR experience or something like that, or vice versa. Whereas if it's something like a Lord of the Rings, where it's very epic in scale in terms of a whole universe that it revolves around it, whether it's Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, all these, or Harry Potter, you can use all these different mediums like gaming and VR and animation to tell those stories in different ways that people can experience the same characters in a different platform. So I think in a way that is where I see these kind of like technologies or
Correlations,
tools,
yeah.
the correlation between these different
Yes.
technologies happening, and it can only work for certain kinds of uh, mass franchise kind of films. I mean, of whether it's animation or live action, where it can carry itself to this different universe, where it's growing such a huge fan base that anything you produce, whether it's even a tea towel with, with a Star Wars character on it, people will still buy it. You
Yes.
know what I mean?
Yeah. So very true. Michael, before we finish up,
Mhm.
I want to share with you and with all our listeners something that I've started as a new experiment on my conversation series, which is to get my guests to ask the next guest a
Mhm.
question. So as I told my previous guest, Sam Pressman, who probably you're familiar with as a name, the head of Pressman Film Production, has his question for you. And the
Okay.
question that he wants to ask, I'll read it for you. If you were to be an animal and you had to look for a partner who was another partner, what animal would you be and what animal would your partner be?
Oh,
Yeah.
I know I would like to be a red panda.
As you should, yes. And what
Because
would be your
they're
partner?
quite cute and they're quite mischievous.
Okay,
They have a character to themselves. And in terms of a partner, I guess another red panda, I guess.
makes sense. It's easier this way, right? You have things in common. You don't need to uh,
Yeah.
make
Oh, yeah.
an effort to learn something completely different.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. I will pass the message to Sam. If he's not listening now, I'm sure he will. And then finally, what is your question for my next guest?
Okay, my
I'm going
question for the
to
next guest,
record it.
Olga, would be if you were to meet if you could meet anybody in the history of time, who would that person be and why?
Okay. You'll hear the answer from my next guest. So stay tuned. I'll definitely let everybody know when my next episode is going to come out. But meanwhile, this episode, as all my other episodes, will be recorded. I will put it on my social media, on IG, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. My all the episodes are available on the YouTube. So please look them up, and they are all amazing people. And please support Animation Nation. Please support Michael with his incredible passion, this incredible vision, and this incredible projects that he is so passionately talks about and creates. And is a part of. So thank you very much, Michael, for sharing all these experiences and all your knowledge and with all of us. I really,
Yeah.
really appreciate
And
you joining, and
yeah.
we can't wait to see the Animation Nation to come out soon
Yep.
and to be part of it and support and come and spread the word, and looking
Yeah.
forward.
And congratulations on number 51, Olga, as well. That's incredible.
Well, I'm blessed to have incredible people in my life, and really, it's a privilege and it's an honor. Just like it's really great honor to talk to you. So thank you so much,
Okay.
and I will see you very soon. We are due to
Yeah.
get together, which we
Yep.
will.
Yep.
And thank you again, Michael.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.